quý khách vừa gọi không đúng. Xin quý khách vui lòng kiểm tra lại hoặc quay số 19008198 để được hỗ trợ. Cước phí $200.
Our phone call didn't work, so let's hang that up and try again later. So Solaris is my guest today, and she's just a fill-in. I appreciated her wonderful help here. My guest that I did have, I evidently had an emergency or something happened, and he did not show. So I'm going to be opening it up for telephone calls. So if you want to call in, if you're a mind control person, you're under any of the umbrella of mind control, and it's driving you crazy. You're a targeted individual. You have gang stalking. You feel like your phone's being tapped. You feel like all these different things are happening to you. Call in and talk to us. Solaris is a specialist in this. I mean, I can't think of a better person that you could talk to. I am there for support because I do run experiencer groups for people who have gone through this. I am first generational MK Ultra, so I'm not into and understanding the psychotronics. I'm learning all the time, especially from Solaris. So please call in and talk to us. So Solaris, great to have you back again, and I'm going to be having people call in and ask questions about. Okay. First of all, let's tell them from the beginning. How would you say the whole psychotronic thing started? I mean, in my opinion, while I was a MK Ultra experiencer, and the many times that I was abducted by, let's call it the shadow government, the black ops, I should say special forces, different people like that, and even ETs that took me in the underground bases. I was taken for months and months and months at a time, and did all kinds of different torture types of things to get me to succumb to whatever the programming was they wanted to do, kind of beat you into a submission. And so they, throughout this time, they also did things like they put holographic helmets on my head and shot these images at me at huge high rate of speed into my mind, and it was like a desensitization until I was finally to a point, after many, many times it happened, of not screaming or crying, because they did things like horrible murder scenes, killing, awful grotesque things, sexual assaults, rapes, all kinds of things that were thrown, basically holographically shown to me on this helmet. Mm-hmm. I believe. What would you say that would correlate to what they're doing to people now?
Well, I feel really bad that you went through that, and I understand that technology so well. That's before they started using the array system and satellite-driven technology, with artificial intelligence. So what they're doing now is they're taking that same system. It's been revamped and enhanced now, but they're interfacing it with artificial intelligence and then interfacing it with your neural circuits, which means there's no headset required. There's no helmet required. So you're getting forced visuals, forced dialogue, forced trauma that you can't disengage from, because of the interface with the neural circuitry. This is where it becomes more dangerous. The helmet can be taken off. You can walk away, hopefully, right? But you still go through trauma. But with this type of array system and this type of technology with the artificial intelligence interface, you don't have a choice. You can't walk away from this program. What you have to do is have a very strong multidimensional mind and override the technology, reprogram yourself and rewrite it as they're trying to program you. And it becomes a really bad chess game. But the psychotronic system is something that it can project all kinds of MyLab information, extraterrestrials. It can make people think they've had experience with extraterrestrials, gods, demons, whatever it is they want to be the beast of the day, they'll project in. Or whatever your fears are, they'll manifest too. That's another thing. Whatever you're afraid of, whatever trauma you have, they'll surface it. They'll sit there and play psychological games where they'll take the communication system and they'll start probing, and they'll start misusing technology to create a scenario. And this whole, what you described as the digitized kind of fast-forward version of a false matrix. It's literally, you're looking at a false matrix projection system. And I can only think how damaging this is to the brain, Miesha, because, I can handle technology. I can write it out. You can write it out. But the bottom line is it's not okay. It's a traumatic program. And I can understand, okay, you're Air Force or you're military and you have a clearance and you're involved in this, and that's your choice. You sign off on it and you want to go through it, whatever. But when you start pulling in innocent people who have natural abilities, who are naturally clairvoyant, who have natural healing abilities, or contactees because you want to probe them for information, that's just plain wrong. And that's what it becomes a war crime, Miesha. This is why a lot of people are getting pulled into these programs, getting labeled, getting all sorts of layers and layers of programming. My goodness, everybody who's been involved in these programs, I feel sorry for them because eventually they're all going to get triggered to some degree. Something's going to trigger these people. There's layers in there of information, even the military personnel.
Yes, that's right. So that's very interesting. So I believe the people such as myself that went through the first, were the ones that they practice on to develop these kinds of programs that they have now in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Pentagon, if I'm not mistaken, I forget what year it was, but they were working on brain links a long time ago. I mean, artificial intelligence brain links. They're quote unquote think tank. I love the titles they come up with, right? Yeah, they take the best of the minds to sit there and create devices, and they don't tell the people that they're recruiting what they're really going to use it for. Like Robert Duncan didn't really understand what they were going to do with his technology. You know, these poor scientists who are actually quite brilliant go in there with this beautiful inventive mind thinking they could do things to help and benefit the world, and these creeps show up and weaponize everything. It's unbelievable. But that helmet, yeah, I remember the helmet thing, and I've never been on that project, but I understand it very clearly. Ask me how? Well, I suspect it's through my handler and the contacts and the programmers, because I have access to databases of information that I shouldn't know about. Right. So the door swings both ways, Miesha. Remember that. When you have a handler who has access and clearance and you start interfacing with these people very intimately, I was starting to go right through them. I was plowing right through these guys, and I know they got nervous. That's why they ramped up the attack, because they knew damn well that she's getting through, she's looking at this, she's like, I was able to go through these things. I was able to decode everything. They hate me for it. But you know what? That's really too bad. Next time they'll learn not to induct someone like me who's going to ball bust it wide open, right?
Right. You are so very, very important to this movement. And I believe it's a movement. It's time that people were able to talk about this, come out into the public, put the people in prison and jail that belong there, have lawsuits. I mean, this is really time. It's time that this cannot keep being hidden and ignored. This is the most horrendous thing that they've done to the population, and now they're doing it to the population in general, from what I understand from a lot of my people who just happen to be in the wrong place while they're doing their ELF and their psychotronic tests and things like that. They'll
feel it in one form or another. If they're not integrated with the artificial intelligence program, they'll feel it on a more exterior empathic level, but they'll feel surges of energy. They'll feel dizzy. They'll feel anomalous energetics, that are not chakra related or energetic insofar as being spiritual. These are attack weapons. There's assault weapons. They're directed energy weapons. So yeah, people are going to get more and more intimate with these programs as they deploy them and start unraveling them before our eyes. I can't see anybody avoiding this unless you wear a magneto helmet, to be honest. And I laugh about this a lot and I make jokes of it, but honestly, you guys, seriously, that's where we're at. Get a magneto helmet. Get something, and I'm not talking aluminum foil. And people like to make jokes about all this stuff. You know what? And also another thing I'm looking at, a lot of these people who say they don't hear any dialogue, I'm pretty sure they're already getting hit with a transmission ultra low frequency that's not affecting them in dialogue, because they already have them lulled and complacent, which means they don't need to program them. Look at the masses. They're already under control. Do you see them doing anything that's putting them out of control? I mean, literally right now, they're just like sheep. They're already in control. They don't need to ramp up a whole lot unless they want to spike some things up with Manchurian programs, which I think they're doing.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that definitely we can get into as well. I'm going to go ahead and also mention something else that they did, and I'd like to know what you think, why they did it, and what it is now being used as. There was another kind of torture thing that they did, which was it's called driving program, where they put you to sleep, they put drugs in you, and they program you. I don't know, I guess you have headsets on, I have no idea, but they just program you while you're sleeping. What do you think they're using that now for?
Oh, that can be for a lot of different things. If they're programming you while you're asleep, that means that pretty much you have programs that are running that will be activated upon triggers. So in other words, that's your subconscious resting. And when you're in another alternate space or reality, also remember that you're a multidimensional being. Let us not forget that we have astral bodies and a subtle energy field. So when they're tagging that or using an induction program, they're going to take that database of information, energetically speaking, and put it and transpose it onto their artificial intelligence. That's where you get the array system that's filled with paranormal entities, disembodied spirits. It's like a mix of a lot of different things. So I suspect they'll use it for their own manipulation program and to program the target. Another thing where, you look at these people who sleepwalk a lot. I always look at that because, yeah, sure, there's such a thing as sleepwalking, and people can be programmed, and maybe they're contactees, and another time maybe they're being programmed by MK Ultra, where they're just completely out of their bodies and they're wandering on autopilot because something is integrated in with them with an artificial intelligence program that's running the show. The autopilot is no longer the subconscious mind. The autopilot becomes the AI. That's scary. Okay, it's like a pilot who's navigating in the skies. Okay, he turns it over to the auto communication, right, or whatever it is, autopilot. So that's really what's happening here. We're having a communication system that's taking over and taking the helm, so to speak, insofar as driving people's bodies, literally driving. I don't want to get into the band Rush. Obviously, they were involved in my assault, but they have lyrics associated with driving. Also, My Turn to Drive, not necessarily driving cars, driving the program, driving a target, remotely hacking a target, and remotely manipulating a target into doing something very insidious.
Okay.
And the target won't remember a damn thing afterwards. Well, they used to use that drug, Miesha. Remember a long time? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm saying it makes absolute sense because I was first of all, they came to me and said at a college and said, "Hey, do you want to be in this program? And it's a medical thing, and it's about dreams and sleeping and everything. So all you have to do is just sleep, and you get paid for it, So right. I went to the building and walked in, and that was the last thing I remembered for 8 months. And so through that 8 months, an altar. Well, actually, the altar was born before, but the altar was accessed, and that is when what I called. She's called Darlene came out, and I ended up getting married, having a complete wedding. My family told me about it later. I don't remember the husband. I don't remember the wedding. I don't remember anything about it. It was in a church. I guess I even had a reception. Then I was taken to Seattle for the Monarch Program, and had little snippets of memories there, but they were all fake memories. They were memories about me being sick with some kind of a child disease, actually, encephalitis, which is a brain disease that is from babies. So,
right.
There was really no way. I looked into this. There's really, the chances is 1 in 100 that I could ever have that. So that was the program, because I think that kind of covered the whole unbelievable migraine and horrible headaches that I would wake up and have, that I couldn't even open my eyes.
Right.
So, and I'm sure that's part of the driving program. And I would imagine when I wasn't needed and used, they put me back to sleep in that same stasis of sleep.
Right. Yeah, that's creepy as all hell. And, mine was a little bit different because mine was like the Borg. I don't know if you ever saw Star Trek, but it was just like that. How they're resting, but they're not sleeping. There's a program running, and there's all this dialogue going on, and there's just pictures. I mean, I never had rest time. When they first inducted me, I never had sleep. I can't believe I survived it because I was not sleeping. I was up all night. Even if my body would be lying down, but I would be in virtual space 24 hours a day with live feed real-time handlers and then the AI interface with the projection. And so I learned, I decoded a lot of this stuff, but really my inner soul navigated as a sacred witness and watched this craziness go by. And then I was able to kind of decode it. And thank goodness I did that, because I think people can get really lost in those programs. But it is like virtual space, and it does affect your body. Your body goes through a type of shell shock trauma through the artificial intelligence array system. It's different than being on a physical military battlefield, but it's really no difference than being one of their remote pilots for their military. There's no difference. Where I've been is pretty much similar to what they've done in the Black Underground. I mean, insofar as being interfaced with the technology.
Yes.
So it's the same thing.
So, and how many years ago was yours?
In 2004. And then, of course, it didn't start. I testified in 2006. and then quartz, and then after that it cleared out. It didn't really clear out technically, but it got better probably around 2008, 2009, 2010. I started to really gain more and more control and power, and then I started just pushing fast forward, and moving. But like I said, I have anomaly signals right now, and these things are integrated to some degree insofar as being able to. They can mess with me if they want to. They can make me very sick. I've mentioned this to Dr. John Hall. They can make things where there's sinusitis, and then there's this clear discharge that comes out of the nose. That's done from the directed energy weapon that you can get. That's actually very hazardous if you have too much of it. It's from your spinal fluid, from what I understand. I've had that bad, which I'm amazed I'm still alive. I truly am, Miesha, and it's just by my sheer will alone, merged with my faith in the full light universe and higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it, that's kept me going. But it's an insidious program, and the fact of the matter is people are swept aside, and I don't know if they necessarily can't work or if they're just so disgusted that they don't want to. After I had a career and everything, as people know, and after I was inducted, man, I just was so disgusted with it. I just lost my interest in wanting to work for the system anymore. I lost my interest in supporting a government that was attacking me and people that were getting away with a criminal assault. I lost my interest in supporting thieves and criminals and people who are misusing psychotronic covert weapon systems for their own, whatever, and giggles, I just got sick of it. I thought to myself, this is not okay. So I can only imagine it's a matter of time before everybody and their mother gets pulled into this. I don't think it's a singular thing. I think that eventually people are all going to get swept into this like one big net.
That's
if we don't stop it.
Right. That's exactly right. Now I'm trying to find the phone number. Do you have the phone number?
You know what? You typed it up there, but I think that first of all, that first 847 area code, I don't think that's the correct area code. Is my take on it. I think the 802 is, Miesha.
It's 347.
Oh, that number. Yeah, 347-688-2902 is the number to call in. 688-2902.
That's so. And hopefully, please call in at 347-688-2902 and ask Solaris questions or myself questions, and tell us about what's happening to you. So we'd love to have you call in. So,
great.
So let me see. I'm trying to think of some of the other little projects they did. Of course, they do the deprivation, the water. Now I can't think of what it's called. What's it called?
Are you talking about the tank that we discussed off air?
Yes, the tank. They use.
I laugh, but I'm really not laughing, Miesha. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. That's my program. I found out through my therapy and work and everything that I have a program for names, because I'm sure there are a lot of names I know that are gone. So anything that has a name, boy, it's a struggle to get out of my mind. So, but these programs to put you in tanks of water to, isolate you. It's I think it's all part of that programming that they're doing now to people with isolation, and people even talk about how they feel like they're in a swimming pool sometimes. Have you heard that?
Right. Well, you and I have talked about this off air, and I really don't want to go into detail with the listeners right now. But I will say I am familiar with a tank system that is connected to contactees and connected to experimentation in the underground base area. And that was back in the 80s. I don't know if they're still using that specific system, and maybe someday we can get more elaborate on it. But yeah, that one for sure. But that's not mind control. That's more like transport and experimentation. And they use a lot of that liquid oxygen. We talked about that too. You'd be amazed insofar as what people see on the regular linear world. I mean, they see this world that they think is real, and there's an underground that has all this advanced technology and things that could heal people overnight. And instead, they're using it for harmful purposes, which I can't, for the life of me, understand. Why, Miesha? Why do they have to torture the brain? Why do they take something beautiful and divine and persecute it into oblivion? It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And I think they're looking for something. Another thing I wanted to mention real quick, too, we were talking about altars getting triggered and then breaking you down, sexually manipulating you or harming you to create an altar through abusive ritual. And yeah, that happens. But you have to understand you are a multidimensional being and you are an old soul. Everybody has this ancient soul kind of template where you come here, you enter onto this planet, and you incarnate here, but you also bring a database of the full light Akashic with you. And with that database comes other lifetimes simultaneously existing in other worlds, other universes, other realities, other species. And I think, Miesha, after I process some of this mind control, I think they're trying to break people down to actually bring out one of those species. I really, really do.
To bring out one of those,
one of the true avatars, one of the true celestial beings that are basically connected to the soul force energy. I think they're trying to harness and uncover and unravel at the DNA molecular level, at the soul spiritual level, some aspect of a divine being so they can control and weaponize and manipulate it. I really do. Because you have to remember, the higher self, oversoul, superconscious is a divine being. It's a divine design. We are connected to a multiverse of infinite consciousness and beauty. Whatever you want to call the highest form of infinite consciousness, God, there's man's version of God, which is incorrect. And then there's the infinite God, the infinite consciousness, the androgynous design behind it all, which doesn't have this design work man's created for it. And I really believe, after where I've been, that they're looking for that. Just like the God particle, they're looking for that. And they're real psychotic about it. I mean, right down to tearing people's souls apart if they can get away with it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it just gets to be a real dark tide. And like I said before, I mean, I talk about it because I have to communicate this data. I mean, I can't imagine just keeping my mouth shut about it. That's not right. You can't, what I know about this technology and how it ruins people and hurts them, and it's just, you got to talk about it. You've got to bring it out to surface where it can be looked at. And of course, the day I see DC doing a damn thing about this is the day I might stand up and applaud them. But they will never do it, Miesha. They're using it so well. Mm-hmm. They're all interconnected with the program, so I can't imagine them breaking that herd and stepping up.
No, I can't imagine. They're gaining so much power from it, and they're
feeding off of it. Yeah, they feed off of the life force. First of all, they're feeding off of your prana when they interconnect you. They're feeding off of your brain, your cellular memory, your memories in general. They're feeding off of everything you're doing. They monitor. When people say, "Oh, I'm being monitored, I'm being watched," really? How would you like to be interfaced with the artificial intelligence, where everything is really getting in real time monitored, and wherever you go, man, it's like you have a probe up your, what? You can't go anywhere without that thing. So that's what I'm talking about. Being monitored once in a while on the internet, that's nothing compared to this thing. Nothing. It's disgusting, let me tell you. There's no privacy involved.
No, it's, and I want to get into a couple of other things on how you think they can use the smart meter, if that could be used. If it's a possible avenue that they could be used.
Well, the thing is with those is that they can be, anything electrical can be hijacked. Your brain can be hijacked remotely. That's provable. Everything can be hijacked. So the whole deal behind the smart grids, they're not so smart, is really regulating your house and monitoring everything you're doing, how much utilities you're using, how much you're doing. Basically, it's Big Brother up your butt, trying to monitor every single thing you're doing. So if you're using too much electricity in your washer and dryer, we're going to have to fix that. We'll switch this off. So in other words, Big Brother's in control of what you do in your house. And that doesn't include spy technology. That doesn't include backdoor technology. That doesn't include people being able to access your computer remotely and saying, this person's online too long, we're going to switch this off. The whole thing behind smart technology is really not so smart for you. It's literally putting you in a space of control, manipulation, and having them regulate everything you're doing. So that's really what it's about. Insofar as the dirty electricity goes, yeah. Insofar as brainwave manipulation goes, I'm not sure they can do it through the smart grid, but I do know it's dirty electricity and it can be very toxic. I've talked to a lot of people who can't sleep if their meters are close enough to the bedroom. Yeah. They literally have to put some kind of a shield on there because they can feel it. People who are sensitives cannot handle that transmission. It's dirty. It's uncomfortable for the energy field. I don't know if many of you know this. I'm sure probably when the electricity goes off, say, and you lose all power in your house, if you ever notice, if you're sensitive, how quiet is everything and how peaceful everything is without the electricity on. Have you noticed, Miesha?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, wow,
and
you
how
feel that?
Connected you are to everything.
Yes.
You can see in the dark.
Yeah. I mean, literally, we have these gifts, and that's why when people go, we lose the grid, we're all going back to the dark ages. Really? Because we're already in the dark ages. We just have technology, okay? It's like, people be surprised at what they can do as multidimensional beings if they don't have the grid up and running, so to speak, because the grid really runs things that you can live without. I hate to say this, but it's really true.